Alrighty. Hello from the virtual space. My name is Riley. I'm the one that's been emailing you, and this is the Evergreen Habitat for Humanity homeownership orientation, the recorded version. So let's get into it. So, Habitat for Humanity makes homeownership attainable through the housing trust model that focuses on serving income qualified community members. Habitat staff, contractors, and volunteers all work together to build or renovate affordable homes supported by donations, fundraisers, grants, community partnerships, and proceeds from our Habitat stores. And a common misconception, Habitat actually qualifies, educates, and supports family as well as individuals. We understand this is something that everybody wants to attain and should be able to attain. And as such, we'll provide training and resources to purchase and maintain your Habitat home throughout the entire life of your home. So the Habitat homeownership model. There's a couple definitions that are important to throw out there kind of before we get started. There are things that you'll hear not only during this presentation, but also a lot during the process if you choose to apply with us later. So starting our area median income, the AMI is the estimated median income for a family size within the Portland, Vancouver metropolitan area. Compound interest is interest earned annually on your loan that acts as a savings that grows over time. Earnest money is a deposit made to show your commitment to buying a home. It's typically applied towards closing costs or the down payment. Equity is the value of a homeowner's financial interest in their home that increases as you pay off your loan or home value goes up. A ground lease is a long-term legal agreement in which the homeowner leases the land from another party, in this case, Habitat. That's something we'll delve a lot more into as we continue this presentation, so don't get afraid by that right now. And then participation hours are hours put towards your own home, which provide valuable skills for homeownership. And then finally, principal is the amount of money that you borrowed for your home loan. So the big question, how is buying a Habitat home different than the traditional home buying process? Well, when you buy a Habitat home, you're buying into a home trust, as mentioned, and the following are what makes it different than the traditional home buying market. Firstly, the price you pay is based on affordability, not the full market value, and is determined using specific guidelines. You, as the buyer, must meet income qualifications and participate in required program activities, and the resale price is also limited to keep the home affordable for future buyers. So what does that all mean? Well, let's start with a home trust. A home trust is a program that makes homeownership more affordable. Our organization helps by offering down payment assistance and grants to lower the upfront cost of buying a home. And instead of selling you both the house and the land, instead what we'll do is sell you the house through a lender and we'll keep the land. You'll then lease the land from us for 99 years, which allows us to keep the land affordable for future buyers. And even though we keep the land, you still have full property rights to your home, just like you would with a traditional home. Really, the only key thing with that land lease is that it helps to maintain that affordability. And so a quick illustration here, just to note, foreclosure ratings for homes in a home trust are 90% lower than conventional home loans. So you, as the homeowner, would own the building, and the home trust would own the land underneath it, shielding it from market highs and lows, guaranteeing affordability for future generations as well as yourself. So mortgage terms. The mortgage term is still a traditional 30-year mortgage, but the land lease, a separate entity, is 99 years. When the house is paid off after the 30 years, the land lease still stays in effect with the required taxes and homeowners insurance. Our land lease comes out to about $30 a month. The required taxes on homeownership insurance shouldn't be too terrible either. So we're still not breaking the bank. It's just essentially a replacement for property taxes. So, to qualify for Habitat's Housing Trust Homeownership Program, there are a couple requirements that you as the buyer need to meet yourself. Firstly, you couldn't have owned a home in the last 3 years unless you've been divorced within the last 3 years. Your income must be below 80% of Clark County's AMI. You have to pass Habitat's initial income screening and credit screening, secure financing from a Habitat approved lender that's familiar with our home trusts, partner with Habitat by putting in participation hours, and agree to the home's resale and use restriction rules as noted in the ground lease. So just kind of a picture of what we're doing now and what's coming up in the future. We have 3 primary housing projects that we're working on right now. We have our Wolf Cottages, which are 1 story. They're either 1 to 2 bedrooms, and we have 15 of those in total. These are our current project. They're all completed. They're really lovely, and they're available for showing, seeing, anything that you'd like to see. Our Northeast 32nd cottages, they're 2 stories. They're 2 bedrooms each, and there's 32 total. These we're expecting, it says fall of 2025. We're expecting these a little bit later, probably getting into maybe December, maybe some of the first in January. And then we have our 62nd Avenue cottages, which are 2 stories. These have 3 bedrooms, and we're not certain there's 9 to 18 in total. We actually already have 4 of these fully completed, 2 available for showing, and we should see the remaining done by February of next year. And these are just kind of some pictures to illustrate. So all along this top row here, right above our logo, are the Wolf cottages. These are 1 and 2 bedrooms. This unit pictured here on the left is actually one of the 1 bedrooms. Down here, these are going to be our Northeast 32nd cottages. This is just a rendering. None of them have been fully built yet, but it gives you kind of a picture of the community we're trying to build there. And right here is a primary picture of our 62nd Avenue cottages. That's the 3 bedroom, 2 story, 2.5 bath homes. They're all really beautiful, all really unique developments, and they all each definitely will have their own quirks. So eligibility income requirements. Habitat homebuyers' income must be below 80% of median income for the Clark County and Portland metro area based on HUD's requirements. And just to quell any fears, the Clark County median family income is actually $124,000. Most of us here at Habitat don't know anybody that makes that on their own. It's a pretty uncommon figure. So chances are most families fall within that 80% AMI range. And then just to kind of illustrate that a little bit further, here's actually a little graphic of the household income guidelines. So this shows your household size, the minimum that would be required for you to be considered bankable through a bank, and shows us that there's the ability to carry a mortgage without extreme financial burden. We don't want to create a situation where a mortgage is all that somebody can pay for. So that we do unfortunately have to impose a minimum, and then we have our maximum. So that kind of shows you within that sliding scale, low to median income, kind of what fits within that 80%. So the home price is based on the verified income of you and your co-applicant only. Total household income is used only to determine down payment assistance. So to go into that a little bit further, we'll touch base on that a little bit more as well and kind of explain the specifics of that last slide. We do politely ask, though, that you report any changes to income or household size and submit all income documentation to us when you submit your application. We only have 30 days to approve or deny applications, and we can only use the information that you provide. So the more information that you give us from the start, the easier it is to process and the faster this will go for you. So eligibility, ability to pay. So what will my house payment be? This is a big question for everybody, and this is something that should justly be answered off the bat. So just like layers of an onion, each applicant's combination of grants, down payment assistance, and household income is unique. As a result, monthly house payments will vary based on individual income and financial needs. We're trying to base your mortgage payment not on the value of the home, not on, what market rate is. We're trying to base it on your individual case. So what can you afford? What works for you? So while we may not be able to give a direct answer as to what your house payment will be right off the bat, just trust that we are keeping your financial barriers into consideration with everything that we do in this process. And your total house payment includes your principal, your interest, your property taxes, your home insurance, and your ground lease. So through Habitat, it's all wrapped into one nice bundle that you can pay just at once. And Habitat will work with you and your lender to ensure that your mortgage is affordable and make sure that we maximize the most down payment assistance possible for you. Again, we're trying to create affordable housing. Market rate homes are a burden. They're expensive. They're hard to get. We want to make sure that people can get into a nice, stable place to live and not have to worry about keeping the lights on as well. So to determine all down payment assistance, we use all legally received funds and verified income from all household members. This is a little bit what I was talking about on that last slide. So we will consider Social Security income, SSDI, any liquid 401ks. We're not looking at your 401k and your retirement plans and saying, oh, well, you can make a draw there and use that towards your house payment. That's not what we're looking at. That's just if you're getting retirement checks as your primary source of income. We also take into consideration child support, veteran disability, and wage jobs of anyone 18 plus. Now, this isn't because we're assuming that, your 19-year-old that goes to college is making, a giant sum of money. This is just because typically in the market, there's an assumption that anybody that's 18 or older that's living with you is probably paying you rent. So if they do have a job that's bringing in some income, we will look at that. It's not going to affect your mortgage price. That's just kind of what we're looking at for where we can pull grants and stuff. And lender programs have many layers to them as well. Just like this lovely cake, your credit, debt to income ratio, AMI, personal contribution, and program eligibility all affect what options are going to be available to you. So again, this is a very case-by-case program. We like to take everybody's unique situation into account and make sure that we're doing justice to your situation. And then there is also just a lender rule, which is a good thing to note. Depending on your lender, they may require you to put a percentage of money towards your closing costs or as a down payment if you have an excess of $20,000 in liquid cash, not your retirement money again. So this is essentially, while we don't require a down payment typically, this is saying if you had, say, $80,000 in your savings, that's an excess of $20,000. We see some of that as money that can be put towards your down payment for your house, that can be put towards your individual costs. However, there are some cases if you're living off of this money and this is what you need to make it through and to pay your bills and to keep the lights on, our lenders will talk with you as well. They'll make sure they're not going to take all of your money just to take all of your money. They can come up with some creative solutions as well to allow you to keep your money that you need to live on while not impeding on that. So it's just something to consider though. If you do have a large savings account, you may be asked to put some of that down towards the house. And then eligibility, willingness to partner. So Habitat homebuyers are required to do 16 participation hours once you're pre-qualified with a lender. And this can be accomplished in quite a few ways. So firstly, your education classes. These are required education classes that we as Habitat want you to take prior to buying your house that cover home ownership issues that may arise while becoming a homeowner. These take up almost all of your 16 hours. Worst case scenario, you might have 2 or 3 hours here or there left. But most of the time, these education classes will fill your full requirements. And their purpose is really just to teach you how to maintain the home, things to expect as a first-time home buyer, and kind of helping to ease that transition from renting to owning. There's also construction work on Habitat homes, Habitat store work. We just opened a second location. So there's a lot of organizing, pricing, inventorying, taking donations, all of that sort of thing that you can do as well to fulfill your participation hours if you do need to fill any extra. And then we do also encourage volunteering at nonprofits other than Habitat for Humanity. Vancouver has a wealth of them. And if there are any that you're particularly passionate about and you want to get out there and use that for your participation hours, you're also more than welcome to as well. So we like to throw this in here because we know 16 hours off the bat sounds like a lot. But how many hours a week do you guys think people use a streaming service? And you can just kind of think about this. The typical answer is 19. So during those 19 hours of a week, you're probably watching Hulu. You know, that's what that 19 hours, Hulu, Disney Plus, whatever you watch TV on. But during that, you can put one of our little education classes. Most of them are digital, on in the background, fill your paperwork out, get your you get your hours, your participation hours done without even, finishing your typical weekly streaming. And we do also like to mention, if you have a disability or any physical limitations, please don't worry. Habitat will work with you to provide reasonable accommodations, whether this be grab bars in the home that you're purchasing, a wheelchair ramp, or even if you're just unable to complete those participation hours with physical volunteering, there's always other solutions that we can come up with. Our applicant's health is paramount, and if there's anything that's going to cause you discomfort or create a new medical problem, we don't want to force you to do that just for the sake of hitting our requirements. So we will absolutely come up with some alternative for you. And all requests are considered on a case-by-case basis as well to ensure fairness and inclusion in the homeownership process. So for financing, Habitat handles the initial pre-qualification process, but final loan approval must come from a mortgage lender. It is important to note that just being pre-qualified by Habitat doesn't necessarily guarantee that approval by a lender. We work with lenders, however, who are experienced with home trust purchases in our area, including Sunflower Bank, Columbia Bank, Washington Trust Bank, Homesite, and Guild Mortgage. These lenders know our program, they know us, we know them. They make it very easy to work with them. They know the process and they'll try their best to work with you as well. However, we do kindly ask with that in mind that you follow our process and work with the lenders that we partner with. Like I said, these lenders are familiar with our program, which helps keep everything smooth and clear. Going directly to other lenders can not only create confusion, it can end up making the process more complicated. A land trust is not a typical mortgage lender specialty. So the lenders we work with are really bringing a lot of extra experience to the table. They'll make this a lot more continuous, a lot easier, a lot less stressful for you if you just continue to work with them. So we please just ask that you don't go to any mortgage lender and ask, hey, can you finance me for a Habitat home? Because our process is a little bit different. And then we have some resale restrictions. So there is a major difference with traditional home buying and Habitat home buying in that Habitat uses resale restriction agreements to ensure that homes remain affordable for future income qualified buyers, including your own future generations. So this means that if you sell your Habitat home, it must be priced so that it can be purchased by another income qualified buyer. And this is done through a resale formula. But with that comes the advantages of a home trust model. That being that, firstly, taxes are restricted and assessed differently. So you could actually write off your property taxes at the end of the year and get all of that money back. You're also protected during things like a housing market crash. Your house won't lose its value like it would. I know 2008 is a big example of a housing market crash that really devastated a lot of home buyers. With a Habitat home, you are protected. Your house will not lose value. With Habitat, you're also buying a house that's 20 to 50% less than market value with a lower fixed rate. You're also protected from a developer buying out your land. And then if eminent domain occurs, Habitat will rehome you. So if the government comes in and says, hey, we've noticed a lot of growth in this area, we need to put a freeway, and your home happens to be right in the path of that, Habitat will come in and rehome you. We don't want you to ever have to worry about not having a house to go to in the event that something like that happens. So with the resale restrictions and all of that in consideration, what do you get back when you sell? Well, firstly, you'll get any money that you put back as your down payment. So all of your principal payments, your down payment, that all comes back to you. That money that you're paying is still yours. You also get 1.5% annual equity that builds up over time. And if you did any additions or improvements to the house as well, if you added a, second bedroom, if you added a garage, another bathroom, anything of that sort, keep your receipts because you'll get the funds back from that as well. And then use restrictions. Another key difference from that traditional home buying process is that a Habitat home must be your primary residence for at least 10 months of the year for as long as you own it. Now, this isn't to say if you get deployed, or if, there's a business trip and you have to be gone for, 2, 3 months. We're not going to judge that. Really, honestly, what this rule is there for is to prevent somebody buying one of our homes, moving out to Nevada, and then renting it out as Verbo or flipping it and turning it into a for-profit business. We really just want that extra level of protection to make sure that if you're buying this home, you're intending on using it for yourself, not as a get-rich-quick scheme. So with that, as I just mentioned, Habitat home buyers are not allowed to rent out your entire home through Airbnb, Verbo, or subleasing. However, if you want to rent out a room, if you want, a roommate, you're absolutely more than allowed to. Please do. You also can't operate a home-based business that involves clients coming into your home. Now, unfortunately, this does include professions like home hairdressers, anything of that sort where clients are crossing the threshold. And that's just because, say that you were a hairdresser and you ran your business out of your house. If a client comes in and, there's a mistake, something happens, and the tip of their ear gets cut off with your shears. Not only can that person then come back and sue you for whatever sort of amount of money they feel you're liable for, they can also sue you for your home. And since Habitat owns the land underneath, that puts us at liability as well as you. So not only may you lose your home, we may lose the land underneath. It's a whole mess that kind of comes with that. So we do prevent that from being a common thing. Now, that's not to say if you're a carpenter and you like to keep your supplies in the garage, please absolutely do. It's just that clients crossing over the threshold is the issue. So as for residency eligibility, again, as I said, we really don't want people, who live in Nevada coming up and, buying a home in Washington just to use it for a Verbo, or people in any other state. So Habitat applicants must live or work in the Portland, Vancouver metro area. Homebuyers also must be a permanent resident at the time of application. If you aren't a permanent resident of the United States, however, but are working towards becoming one, we do require either an ITIN or documentation, and this is primarily for the lender, less than us. But with that, we do also all understand, both our Habitat staff as well as our lenders, that this is a very sensitive time for people under ITIN or DACA or any sort of immigrant. We're not in the business of selling your information. We don't want to put you at risk. We don't want to risk your safety. All of this is confidential. We're not selling your information to any other entity. This is just so that we can prove that, hey, you do live in the United States and this isn't just an acquisition of property. So what's next? Well, this orientation is the first step, so congratulations. Secondly, we'll need you to fill out an application, and by doing so, you're agreeing that you understand our eligibility requirements. Our application can be filled out and submitted online, or it can be provided in a paper form for you to fill out. In this case, we would have you come into the office to pick up that paper copy. We could also mail it out to you as well. And as mentioned, we do have our applications in English, Spanish, and Russian as well. So whatever version is easiest or preferable for you to fill out, then we'll absolutely send over to you. And then finally, you will be required to provide documentation such as verification of employment or other verification documents. And please see our website for a complete list. You can also email myself or Michelle. Both of our emails will be provided at the end. Additional documentation may be required, however, as you progress through the process. So please keep an open mind when your lending specialist asks you, hey, we need extra pay stubs, we need extra this, that, and otherwise. It's all part of the process. And then phases and process, we like you to know where you're at in the process so that you can have a concrete understanding of what's going on the whole time. We don't like to keep people in the dark with that. So when we get your application, we will determine your eligibility by verifying your income and credit. This takes about 30 days. However, our lending specialists are very fast. So don't be surprised if you get any communication from them regarding your application a lot faster than 30 days. Secondly, once you've passed your initial screening, you wait to be referred to a lender. And then the third step is to actually go to that lender that you've chosen for final qualification and total costs. This process with the lender can take anywhere from 90 to 120 days. So while that's happening, you can then come back and look at our inventory and select a home that fits your family size and desires. If Habitat doesn't have one in stock that fits your family, however, then your file will be held onto until we do. You're not going to be moved to the bottom of the list. You'll still hold priority. It's just sometimes the housing stock is not there for the need. However, we will contact you and let you know when one is available that does fit your need then. And then finally, once qualified with a lender, you'll be fully onboarded into Habitat's program. You do come back to me to do this, and then you perform your participation hours. And then once all your requirements are complete, you close on your home, move in, and enjoy home ownership. So what if I don't qualify? Don't worry, we will work with you until you're mortgage ready. Some people have to apply several times before they qualify. And if you reapply within a year, you don't have to repay that application fee. We just update your file with current documents. So if your credit isn't quite where we need it, or there's a little outstanding debt, we'll work with you to help you, figure out a strategy to get that paid off, to increase that credit score to become Habitat eligible and homeowner ready. Just because sometimes there's a denial letter doesn't mean it's over. And we promise we will work with you so long as you work with us. And can I buy any house that I want? Habitat qualifies based on household size, so you do need to find a home that fits the size of your household. We never intentionally underhome anybody. So if we only have 2 bedrooms on the market and you have a 4-person household that needs at least 3 bedrooms, we're not going to put you in a house that's too small for you. This is still an investment and we don't want to put you in a situation that isn't sustainable. However, if there is a medical need, ADA, anything of that sort, we will work with you as well. And if there isn't a home available that fits that need, then again, your file is put on hold until one is for sale, and then you will be first on the list for contact for that. And then finally, can I will my home to my children? Absolutely. Our homes are completely willable. That land lease renews for another 99 years, so that won't expire within your child's lifetime either. And everything renews with them, so they should be completely fine to will that house. And again, if you're denied for too low of income, but then submit more income sources, your application date will be reset to the day that we receive all of those documents. We need to know what's going on with your income. If you come back and you get denied and you come back to us and you say, hey, I have a second job, would this put me at that 80% AMI? Would that get me over this benchmark? We see that as a little bit dishonest. We need all of that information up front. If you're trying to hide income from us because you're afraid that you won't qualify, that's not something to be afraid of. We'll find out. We just need to know. It's better if we figure this out up front and then we can find a way to progress together. And then safeguarding. Again, all of your information is secured. Staff is required to follow all federal housing and financial laws, and we do not share or sell any of your information. Our staff is very reliable. Like I said, we're not in the business of selling anybody's information. So applications and processing. Another important note here is please do not turn your application into just anyone at the store. Please only turn these in at our office. We're on our Southeast 2nd location, kind of off Mill Plain. That's where we are. We're the only ones that should be taking your applications. Our office is open Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we do not recommend mailing your application or money to this address as it can be lost in the mail. And we don't want any of that deeply personal information out in the world. Weekends and after hours applications can also be put in a mail slot in a secured yellow door in the store with payment and documents. Our actual retail store is open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So there's some opportunities to be in the store when our homeownership office isn't there. Go ahead and pop that document in the mail slot. Anybody in the store should be able to direct you to the door. Just please don't give your documents to them and expect them to put them there for you. And finally, appointments are recommended for turning in applications. It's a lot easier. Michelle is our intake person. She tends to take those applications in, and it's a lot easier if you work with her schedule. That way we can figure out if you have everything you need and go from there. And then finally, please don't call or email us to check the status of an application. We do have 30 days to process it, and constant questions about it can cause our department to slow down quite a bit. So our online application process, I'm not going to go into this in full. I will just say our online application is definitely clunky. It doesn't always save. It may erase and make you refill it out. Sometimes it also does come back to us and it has multiple conflicting answers chosen at the same time. Paper is definitely easier. However, we can do this online version if you'd like. And I would be more than happy to send out an image of just this slide deck as well if this is the route that you choose. And then just in general, our credit qualifications, we do prefer a minimum credit of 620. However, even with a 620 credit score, you still may not qualify with a lender. Just because it's good enough for us sometimes doesn't mean it's good enough for the banks, and that is just kind of the unfortunate piece to all of this. Credit usage also can't be excessive, meaning please don't have any maxed out credit cards. Your taxes also must be current, no unfiled years, and no collections, judgments, or liens. This aside, sometimes some little things end up in collections. There may be a $40 charge out there, maybe a $100 charge, and you just didn't know it moved to collections. That's not grounds for denial. We'll just probably ask you to pay it off. And then finally, why are credit guidelines strict? And this is because you're borrowing a very, very, very large sum of money. And this can be anywhere from $260,000 up to $315,000. Our lenders have to be certain that you're a good credit risk. Otherwise, they could be losing not only themselves, but their financial institution money as well. But that does pretty much sum everything up. So as I mentioned, if you have any additional questions or anything else that you would, like addressed, you have any questions about your personal situation, please feel free to email me at riley@ehfh.org. It should be the email you're receiving this video from. You can also feel free to contact Michelle. Her contact information is on the screen right now. She's our intake and stewardship coordinator. She should be another great point contact for you as well. Thank you for everything. We look forward to seeing your applications. And thank you guys as well for joining this online orientation. We really look forward to hearing from you.